Hello all. Today I'm going to be talking about transformational leadership. It was one of the articles that we had to read for this week. And I'm going to be relating it back to my experience as a youth soccer player and hopefully how I can take it forward as a coach into the future. So I'll start off by talking about transformational leadership theory first. It is a theory about how leaders can affect the lives of the followers. And what I like about it is how it looks at it holistically. So it's not just about the leader, it's not just about the follower, it's about how the follower feels in their own mind, how they relate to others, how those others and their peers relate back to the leader, and how the environment can be changed as well to create the culture and whatnot of effective leadership. So that holistic aspect is something that I really like about it, and something that has a lot of potential for it as something that can be used for sport. So, as cited in the article in our readings for this week, a transformational leader is described as a leader that shows idealized influence, which means the leaders behave as a role model and gain the followers' trust and respect, for one. For two, they have inspirational motivation. So they have high expectations of achievement and they communicate some sort of compelling goals for the future. And three, they create intellectual stimulation. So that means that the followers are encouraged to consider different ideas, and the leader empowers the followers to contribute new and interesting and creative ideas to the vision that we talked about earlier. And then for number four, there's individualized consideration. So that means that the leaders display some sort of actual genuine care and concern and respect for the people who are considered the followers in this scenario. They actually help meet those people's needs. So, for that one, an example in a sports setting would be, as a kid, I would want to go out there and have fun with my friends. So if a coach would make sure that there's time for that to happen and ask us as kids if we wanted that, then that would be an example of meeting our individual needs and actually showing some care for us as human children, right? So in my sport experience, I've had coaches who allowed us to be human, like I described, and I have had coaches who believed that undermined some sort of grander mission, which would probably go against the inspirational motivation one, because their vision of the future probably isn't a compelling one. It's probably not one that us as children would really care about. We just want to be in the present, at least in that scenario, right? So as far as that relates back to my playing experience as a youth sport athlete, I'd say that some of my coaches tended to get some of these right, some of the time. But I definitely believe that every coach I've ever had could have learned to do these things. And so having some sort of, what's the word? Some sort of intervention, some sort of class, some sort of course where they could learn about this would do wonders for positive youth development through sport. So next, the article talks about how this type of leadership that I described relates to actual benefits for the followers and potentially the leader even. And one big thing they talked about was how the follower relates intrapersonally. That means within themselves. And one thing that resonated with me in my youth sport career is the emotions. So, as a child, you're learning about how to experience the world, and emotions can be really tough, especially in a sports setting where you're physically tired, you're mentally tired. Sometimes you have your parents putting pressure on you, which I know was the case for me. And you have your teammates and your coaches that you don't want to let down either. So there's a lot of pressure that happens, and that can what's the word? That can conglomerate into very strong emotions. So, if as a transformational leader, you can help youth identify and respond properly to the emotions, and take take a step back maybe, and really use those emotions as a learning experience, I think that that could be really good for youth. I think they could use that in sport. They could use that out of sport. I know that dealing with a big provincial loss was really hard for me to deal with. And I had some coaches that were there to support me through that. And that was really valuable. And it's stuck with me, at least in some respect. Just even that one event. But having coaches doing that over and over with multiple events where there's strong emotions, I can see that being very valuable. The next thing that the article talks about is interpersonal relationships. So, how someone identifies and relates to other people, usually peers, but also to the leader. And the thing that resonated most with me was the quality of the relationships. If by that it means how much do people truly care for each other. And I know that in my sporting experience, I still have friends to this day from when I was 7, when I was 10, when I was 12, from different teams that I only really corresponded with 2 to 3 times a week for maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And we still have a really tight bond. And if as a coach you can create those really tight bonds, those can last a really long time and be very important. Yeah, I think that that's a really big aspect of how transformational leaders can impact people's lives through sport. So the last big area transformational leaders can affect the lives of athletes is the environment. What type of culture can you create? And in the article, they talk about supporting creativity, how lending support to new ideas and new ways to look at things, just within the culture, is something that can really alter people's lives in a good way. And as a youth coach, I 100% agree. As a technical coach, my job is to come in and assist the head coaches of a bunch of different teams, different age groups, and to sort of introduce new drills, change the way they're playing a little bit to make them a little bit more successful, and make them play the game a little bit better, understand it better. And one of the big things that I do that creates one of the biggest effects is I set up a drill where there isn't just one way to succeed, and I tell the athletes to be creative. And sometimes they're shocked. They're like, what? You're not just going to tell me what to do? But when they be creative, the skills start to show. Their passion starts to show. Their unique personalities that they lend to the game. And that's where cool, awesome chemistry comes up. Certain players really put the way that they move and the way that they pass really work with other players who might move and pass a little bit less, but they're kind of sneaky. They're like, ooh, I'll wait. And I'm getting a little nerdy with the soccer here, but my main point is if you can encourage some creativity, you can see things in a totally different way. And as a coach, that just pops up new ideas. As a player, boom, new ideas. There's new ways that I can attack an opposing defense that I'd never thought of before. And now you're less stuck when something new happens. And some of the best players ever are the ones who are the most creative, right? And then not only that, it's also really helpful when you get out of sports. Because if you're stuck in a really rigid system and you have to change your system, say from soccer to a law firm, it's not going to help you. But if you're creative, that's going to help. So in my experience as a coach, I'm really, really impressed by creativity and just allowing kids and athletes to do what feels right to them. So this might have been a little bit long and maybe a little bit rambly, but I hope that it's informative and that my examples were helpful and maybe helped you understand the text a little bit. And I hope that you could hear well, so I'm not totally certain how this comes out. And it's my first time doing a vlog, so yeah, awesome. Thank you all for listening and taking the time.